Hi there, and welcome back. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about AI-based rendering and visualization, and particularly about SketchUp Diffusion, which is a service that just recently got released and that is very much in this space. This is a topic, of course, that I had not covered in the latest edition of my SketchUp book because it's so fresh. It just came out this year that it came right after. And so in any case, this is going to be our introduction to this topic, and I want to give you my opinion on it and show a few examples. All right, we'll be back in a minute with SketchUp Diffusion. Don't forget to check out my book Architectural Design with SketchUp. It covers all of these topics and makes for a great desk reference. You can find it where books are sold. There's also a link to it on my site sketchupfordesign.com, together with lots of additional tutorials and news. All right, let's get started. Before we jump right into the SketchUp Diffusion application, I just wanted to quickly mention that this is all part of a new trend, of course, where generative AI, artificial intelligence, is used for a variety of visualization tasks. And as you most probably have seen by now, there are a lot of different approaches to this. Now, this kind of fits in with our space of rendering and visualization. And if you have looked at my SketchUp for Design website and of course the SketchUp book, you know that there's a ton of rendering software available. And actually, just as a quick reminder, I've got this nice handy list and table on the website right here under book and then rendering, where you can always find a nice overview of what's out there. Anyways, I just added this little end bit, and the diffusion row isn't even in this table yet, but there are some other products out there or services out there that do similar things. There's Arco, there's Veras. You can find a bunch of videos, introduction videos on those, and I encourage you, of course, to check those out so that you can see what's going on there. And what they all do is they use a view of your model and or a text prompt to create some kind of a visualization. And that can be realistic, and that can be artistic, and can be all kinds of things. And it can actually be something that's not even realistic at all. So in any case, this is an interesting category, and it's an interesting direction that we're going in. And I'll show you in a second. It's good for some things and it's not so good for other things. And in a nutshell, basically your classic rendering software that you have up here does things better in some ways, in that it reliably illustrates something that you want to illustrate, and it will always do the same at different resolutions and so on and so forth. With this AI visualization approach, we get different results very often, even if we just run it the same case with twice over. So there's that, and so that's why this is almost more in the ideation space. If you want to try out something new or just kind of see something that you hadn't thought about before, that sort of stuff. So yeah, experiment with all of this. And of course, this list here is very likely going to expand very rapidly very soon. This all is, of course, in the same space as my OpenAI Explorer extension that I had released earlier in the year, where you can use natural language to create things in SketchUp. Now, I'm not going to cover that here, but I just encourage you to take a look at it, because that is, of course, also AI-based, uses OpenAI APIs and services, basically. All right. Having said all of that, let's take a look at SketchUp Diffusion. And the way it works is if you have a installed version of SketchUp Pro, either on Windows or the Mac, then you have to install it as an extension. You can go to the extension warehouse and find it and then install it. It's part of SketchUp Labs. So there is a bit of a beta thing to it. Everybody gets to try it out and see how well it works and give them feedback. And then this is most probably going to evolve. Somewhere down here it says it's early days. But in any case, so that's how you get access to it here. If you're on the iPad, it's a little button that shows up under the tools, and the user interface is somewhat similar. All right. What is the user interface? Well, let me close this first. If you go to your extensions menu, there isn't much there. There's just one menu item, so you got to click that. And then you get this dialog once it comes up right here. I'm going to make it a little smaller. And then in principle, what it does is it takes your current view, and you can refresh the current view right there. So now I had like an exterior view right here. And then you can up here describe what it is you want. So this is the prompt, basically. This is where you say, well, this is supposed to be an exterior scene, and I don't know, maybe holiday decorations or something. Whatever you want to have visualized, that's what you put in here. Then you get to pick a style. There's a variety of preset styles here. There's the photorealistic, there's sketchy styles, there's all kinds of things. So I'm just going to click the photorealistic one. Then below that, you've got some settings. And the first one is interesting because it says respect model geometry. So at that point, the AI will actually respect what you have in your scene and will fill in, textures and lights and so on and so forth. And that works actually reasonably well. You can crank this up and you can crank it down. If you crank it down, all of a sudden it doesn't respect anything anymore that's on your in your scene. And if you're way down to 0, it just generates an image. So there's that tweak that you can do. And then prompt influence, of course, is how much your prompt up here influences the result. And then, of course, you will want to just experiment with those two, quite simply. Then there's a generate button. I'll click it in a second. And when you click it, the image here will be sent over, and this is, of course, Stable Diffusion's services. Basically goes over to those guys, and it will generate 3 options that show up right below here. And then you can either add a scene with an overlay of one of these images, or you can just simply save the image to your hard drive and do something else with it. So that's, in principle, the functionality right here. I'm just gonna keep the settings closed, and then down here, of course, there's a few feedback and help kind of things. All right, so let's give this a quick try. Let's say exterior view of a university dining hall at sunset. I don't know. and I'm just going to click generate. Now you see what's happening, of course. It uploads. Lets the robots do their thing. Scroll down a little bit, because now we're going to watch the space down here. And very soon, downloads images, and we're here. So now you can click one of these. You get a preview. I always find, just simply making this a little bigger helps. And it is an entrance scene of some kind of a, I don't know, dining commons of sorts, sunset. It did get that point. There's another one. This is where it gets a little interesting, why the sun all of a sudden would be there. That's actually where I had a building. And there's another one right there. So it's your, your AI generated visualization. And then, of course, you will decide whether one of these makes sense for you. If it doesn't, then, of course, you can always tweak your prompt and, add more information. Very often you will have to give it, more information. And you can even say what you don't want to see in there. And then if you want to do any of these other views, so pencil sketch, we can do as well. So I'm just going to generate that. And we'll see what comes. So again, the scene got uploaded. And, I may have just uploaded this image actually, come to think of it. But anyways, you can always reset it and then go from there afresh. So yeah, so there's a few pencil scene options right there. So that's of course really cool because you can now quickly visualize even the coarsest of ideas, which is what I had here. Or you can just kind of get some ideas as to, well, maybe that kind of surface texture might be interesting. Of course, with AI, one thing that happens is, of course, that this is always trained on some original material, and it will replicate things that exist already. So you're very often not going way out of the ordinary by using a service like this because it's trained on previous knowledge. So it's always important to kind of remind ourselves of that. But what comes from that is, of course, to some extent, you can use this a little bit to find out what the standard or the common approach to something might have been as well. So anyway, so there's all of these kind of effects that happen with this. Okay. Once you have these scenes, once you see a scene up here, you can click on Add Scene, and it gets added to your SketchUp model. I'm not going to do it because I already have a few that I want to show you. Or you can just simply hit Save, and then the file saves. All right. So let me close my dialog right now and show you what I already did beforehand. Just some different models, some different situations, just to kind of discuss what's happening here. Okay, so here's my dining hall. I used a similar prompt. Actually, I had a slightly different aspect ratio, so I get different image aspect ratios, which is an interesting side effect. And then those get overlaid over the scene when you add a scene, and you will obviously have to turn things off if you just want to see the image. So keep that in mind, but because it will get overlaid like this. Yeah, just again, the similar prompt to what I just did, produce something like this here, gives me a somewhat realistic entrance situation. The trees get respected. All of that is good. Here's another version of the same. Seems to be tending to a later in the day light of sorts. This is an interesting outcome. Every once in a while, if you're not specific enough, then the exterior-interior confusion happens. And I clearly meant this to be an exterior scene, but I think in this prompt I did not specify that it was supposed to be exterior, so it actually interpreted it as a fairly large interior atrium. Well, that's an interesting outcome, maybe something I could consider. But yeah, so remember to always specify something like this here, whether it's supposed to be exterior or interior. This scene here is interesting in that I actually cranked down the respect model geometry, because now all of a sudden you see here on the left, and I'm going to just hide a few things here. Now you see here on the left, the building is very different. My trees actually have become other buildings. So there's all of that happens as well, and sometimes that might make sense too. So like I said, experiment away. All right, so that was that kind of dining hall situation. Actually, there's also a larger version of that. Let me go here. You can do master plans or overviews. If you remember, actually, in the styles, there's an overview master plan type style as well. And then with an easy prompt, you can get things like this here, fairly quick renderings with realistic lighting and somewhat realistic but very coarse textures. But often that's most probably what you're after if you're doing something like that. You can do clay renderings too, and you can then just do mass renderings, and they actually come out quite nicely. So and remember, this one is still overlaid, so some of these lines actually will appear if I just look at the image. So yeah, be creative. Then let me go a little over there. Another thing that I had recently posted was this, rotational sculpture with the vase and the face, that kind of thing. And I just wanted to see how much something like this basically survives this process, whether the geometry stays intact and whether you can actually get this effect to turn something. So I think my prompt here was, a large sculpture in a garden or in a lush garden or something like this. And I got something like that. So that's an interesting, one where the face outline, where that geometry was very well respected, and then of course you can turn something like this into an interesting illustration all of a sudden, get some kind of pattern on there. There are always some interesting glitches that happen, or not always, but occasionally there are some interesting glitches that happen with AI, the hallucinations of sorts. So one question that I would have is, why does this hedge fade into there on the right and not go all the way through? So that's something that just happened. And then, of course, with a process like this, I don't have any kind of control over fixing that. I likely can't just say, please don't do that next time. It'll be a very different image all over. So then I might have to just fix that in Photoshop or something else. So that's one thing that happens. And then the other thing that apparently happened in this image, and you can see it down here on the left, is this is all trained on some I don't know, images that existed out there. And so this run actually hallucinated a stamp into that. I'm pretty sure this is nobody's stamp, but simply the existence of a stamp like that appeared. So that's a fun little side effect that happened there. Here's another one. I know. So yeah, so you can even with very minimal geometry get big scenes just simply by describing those. So there's all of that you can do. Then you may have seen my holiday card, virtual rendered video thingy, and I went for this weirdly surrealistic tubular 360-degree landscape with Christmas trees everywhere. So why? I don't. Well, I just thought it was a fun idea. Anyways, but when you do this or something similar, i.e., something that doesn't exist that way, and you use that as originating geometry, you may or may not get something useful. So let me turn off some of these. Because now, the system had no frame of reference of what I'm actually showing it. So I think my prompt here was, I think I said 360-degree surrealistic tubular view of a snow-covered tree landscape or something like this. And I mean, I do get the snow-covered trees, so that's happening right there. But then the landscape isn't all that clear. There's some rather unspecific snow behind there, and then we're looking into the sun. So, anyways, take it with a grain of salt. If you're into surrealism, then that may not work so well. There's another caveat that I have, and that's actually at the very beginning here. It has to do with people. And we all know, of course, the silhouettes, the cutout figures that are in SketchUp. And so then, of course, often makes sense to leave those in or use more as scale figures of sorts. Anyways, if we do that, and if we just render something like this, we may or may not get anything useful. So this is what I've found with several runs that, for one, some of these work fairly well, where then the anatomy is well represented. The guy with the dog seems to always work out well, and then here our current scale figure seems to be working out well. But then for some of the other ones, the system doesn't seem to be overly clear which way they're looking, and then you get slightly twisted, anatomy, and faces seem to be always fairly smushed. So yeah, so take that with a grain of salt. So very useful if they're small, maybe not so much if they're large. And then down here, of course, if the source isn't very clear as to what it is, this is of course the two kids and the dog, then the outcome may not be so great. So I would recommend pick scale figures that have clear anatomy and behavior, and then it actually works fairly well. Here's another version of people. I think the prompt here was people in a park. And so then we got all of that. Works a little better if you go with the sketchy type styles. Right there. But in any case, yeah, so I hope this gave you some ideas. And let me pull it up here. Hope this is a tool that you find useful. Of course, you can push it and hack it any which way you want. There are some other uses, of course, being discussed right now. So go for it, try it out, yeah, have at it. See if it works for your case. And I'm definitely going to be using it for some quick visualizations or maybe some ideation processes. But I'm sure there's more there, and then there's also more tools to come. So yeah, in any case, give SketchUp Diffusion a try. Try out any of those others, and let me know in the comments what you think. I hope this was a useful intro. As this technology matures and develops, I'm going to post more, but this is my intro to AI-based rendering. All right, talk to you all soon.